What's the worst reason why your girlfriend's parents hated you? The second her dad took a look at me, I think I saw him chuckle. My girlfriend Johanna and I had been dating 6 months, and when she took me to meet her father, she warned me he could be difficult. But nothing prepared me for what happened. The moment he opened the door and looked me up and down, I saw that I'm 5'8", which isn't tall, but it's not exactly tiny either. Johanna is 5'11", and it never bothered either of us. I like a tall dommy mommy. Her dad was this massive guy who played college football 30 years ago and never stopped talking about it. He stood there in the doorway at 6'4", just staring down at me with pure disgust. Before I could even introduce myself properly, he turned to Johanna and said loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "This is what you bring home? Where's the rest of him?" I was annoyed, but still, I stuck out my hand for a handshake anyway. He ignored my hand completely and walked back into the house, shaking his head and said, "Sheesh." Johanna grabbed my arm and whispered that it would be okay, but I could see she was embarrassed too. We followed him into the living room where her mom was setting out snacks. She seemed nice enough and tried to make small talk while her husband sat in his recliner glaring at me like I'd personally insulted him by existing. The whole visit was torture. Every time I tried to contribute to conversation, he'd cut me off with some comment about my height. When I mentioned my job as a software engineer, he said, "At least you can reach the keyboard." When I complimented the house, he said, "Good thing you can see it from down there." Johanna kept shooting him looks, but he wouldn't stop. Her mom just nervously refilled the chip bowl over and over. Things got worse when he started talking about Johanna's ex-boyfriends. Apparently, they'd all been over 6 feet tall and played sports. He went through them one by one, describing how tall and athletic they were while staring at me. He actually got out his phone to show me pictures like I needed visual proof that taller men existed. Johanna finally told him to stop, but he just laughed and said she used to have standards. The final straw came when we were leaving. I helped Johanna with her coat, and her dad actually snorted. He said, "Look at him having to reach up to help you. This is embarrassing, Johanna. You need a real man, not some child who still eats dirt." I'd been biting my tongue all night, but Johanna looked like she was about to cry. I just said it was nice meeting them and walked out with as much dignity as I could manage. Johanna apologized the whole drive home. She said her dad had always been weird about height because he'd been bullied for being skinny in high school until he hit a growth spurt. Now he was obsessed with size and manliness and judged every guy by how tall they were. She said he'd eventually come around, but I could tell she didn't really believe it. We agreed to just avoid him for a while. 3 days later, Johanna called me crying. Her dad had been walking to his truck in the driveway when he hit a patch of black ice. He fell hard and broke something in his spine. The doctor said he'd need surgery and months of physical therapy. The worst part was, he'd be in a wheelchair for at least 6 months, maybe longer. Johanna needed support, so I drove straight to the hospital despite everything. When I walked into his hospital room, he looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Not just because he was lying in bed, but because all that arrogant confidence had drained out of him. He couldn't meet my eyes when I asked how he was feeling. Johanna's mom thanked me for coming and squeezed my hand. Johanna was trying to be strong, but I could see how scared she was. Over the next few weeks, I helped however I could. I drove Johanna to the hospital and picked up prescriptions. I helped move furniture around their house to accommodate the wheelchair. I even installed grab bars in their bathroom because I was the only one who knew how to use power tools properly. Her dad didn't say much, but I caught him watching me sometimes with this confused expression. The moment that changed everything happened about a month later. Her dad was trying to reach something from a kitchen cabinet and couldn't do it from his wheelchair. Without thinking, I grabbed it for him and set it on the counter. He stared at the jar, then at me, then back at the jar. For the first time in his life, he needed someone shorter to help him. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "Thanks," he said quietly. It was the first nice thing he'd ever said to me. After that, he stopped making comments about my height.